They say the court's jerking me around,
They're
they're
not- I bet they don't have
terrible
much money
there,
left over
and
for
they're
other
rude,
stuff.
and they're blah, blah, blah.
Just that kind of stuff.
Turns out it's,
But
somebody
they,
who's
Right.
I'm really
not very
proud. When
happy
I see them go by
Yeah.
now,
what they gotta do.
Yeah.
take pride in their work.
And they're like, well, you might be hearing from this person.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order, please. This is the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. Today is Wednesday, February 26th. If we could stand for Pledge of Allegiance and for prayer for Dr. Lathrop. Prayer first.
Our dear God, I want to thank you for your phone call this morning. And I can always tell it's you, God, your ringtone. I pick up the phone and the first thing you say to me is, I love you, Danny. And yes, I'll pass on what you said, that you call us all the time. We just need to listen for your ringtone, pick up the phone, and listen to the words of our darling God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If anybody has a cell phone, if you could turn it off, please, or put it on mute, I would appreciate that. Next is a roll call, please, Bonnie.
Commissioner Rennie?
Here.
Edmund?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop?
Here.
Lemko?
Here.
And Max Bauer is excused.
Right. Okay, next is the approval of the minutes of, do you want to do it in mass as one? Or- I don't know if we've all been there for all
Everybody
of them.
call,
Yeah, I
everybody
think
in there?
there's one that I missed.
Which one's that, you recall?
Actually, I have that. Commissioner Wheelock wasn't at the January 31st or the February 5th or the February 7th.
Oh, what the heck.
We'll just do them
We'll just
individually.
individually.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th, 2014 regular session minutes of the Board of Commissioners.
Support by Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next, January 29th special budget meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th, 2014 special budget session meeting minutes.
Mr. Thomas, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is January 31st, special budget meeting. Go ahead, Larry, just keep going.
Okay. Mr. Chair- I was going to have everyone share, but, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the January 31st, 2014 special budget hearing minutes.
Support by Thomas. Sure. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next, February 5th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the February 5th, 2014 special budget session minutes as presented.
Mr. Thomas?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is February 6th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the February 6th, 2014 special joint session meeting with Parks and Rec Commission.
Support by,
I'm tired of being a supporter.
okay, Rennie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is February 7th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the February 7th, 2014 special budget session minutes.
Second.
Second by Rennie. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is February 12th.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman,
I'd move to approve the February 12th minutes.
Oh, sneak.
thank you. Thank you.
Support by Lathrop.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion's carried.
So it happens when you go on vacation for 10 days.
Right, no problem. Next, we have public comment. So, Bonnie, if you could read the rules for public comment, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. A, any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. B, no person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Okay. I have had a request from one person to represent a number of people as to whether or not he could have more than 3 minutes. And apparently in our rules, it says that we can give up to 10 minutes for a presentation on something like that. Does anybody know if anything different? Bob can't find it on his, on the computer, so I'm going to allow 10 minutes for that individual, if you don't mind, Bill? Sure. Okay? Let's keep it in the 10 minutes, so. Yep, please. That would go to Bonnie.
Okay, and then these to be distributed?
Okay, that'll be fine.
There's 3 different items there.
Okay.
You'll want to sort through
Did you get all 3, Herb, or just one?
They're all together, I think. Maybe not.
Yeah, start the timer when you start talking.
I didn't get one for Bob.
I'll get it.
Okay.
Oh, you want one for Bob, too?
Yeah.
I got him, Bob. One of each one of those. This one for you, one for Bob.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, I'm here to address
Introduce yourself first.
my name is William F. Klaus. I live at 5523 North Hannah Road, Kingsley, Michigan. I'm here addressing the County Board of Commissioners on behalf of a group of concerned citizens. The points I'd like to make, I'm very disappointed in the Board of Commissioners, as I had came here twice and asked you twice not to authorize the Drain Commissioner to perform stormwater services for municipalities within Grand Traverse County, as I believe he lacks adequate knowledge and expertise. You said the Drain Commissioner would provide his stormwater services for municipalities in the county at no cost to the county. I told you that there would be cost to the county. You ignored me and supported his request. Now he's not only taking time away from performing his statutory duties, but he is filing mileage reimbursement and per diem requests with the county for his Fife Lakes Township stormwater services. Who's paying for the accounting of these costs? Who's paying for the costs? What's next? What are you going to do about that? You should be cutting costs and expenses, as we all have a huge budget deficit. Commissioner Thomas, I'm especially disappointed in your vote in this matter. You justified your vote by saying that you were going to support the Drain Commissioner's request because none of the townships in your district wanted his proposed service. Who do you represent? Commissioner Lathrop, I'm disappointed in you for not recusing yourself when the commission votes on issues that involve Kevin McEllier, your housemate. You told the voters and taxpayers that you would recuse yourself. I changed my mind, just doesn't cut it with me. I further told the Board of Commissioners that a stormwater ordinance is not necessary if the Drain Commissioner would properly perform his statutory duties as required by the Drain Code of 1956. If we let the DEQ manage and enforce compliance with NERIPA, Act 451 of 1994, Part 91, Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control. My statements appeared to fall on deaf ears. It appears that special interests got in your way when you cast your vote. Why did you vote to overregulate, increase costs, and cause unnecessary delays? When you voted, I did not know that the Drain Commissioner had not filed his annual reports as required by the statute for the last 2 years. You folks must have known that. You're the one that he's accountable to. You must know also that since his duties were reduced to only those that are statutory duties, and he lost his support staff, that he has not filed his annual reports as required by statute for 2 years. Do you know if he's even made the inspections as required by statute? Did you know that his support staff, his previous support staff, had previously performed those inspections and prepared the reports for him? Do you think he's capable of or intends to perform his statutory duties? I would like to see the reports that we all pay him to produce. Does the County Board of Commissioners really know what the duties of the Drain Commissioner are? If you don't, how can you hold him accountable? I've provided you all a link that will get you to the Drain Code of 1956, so you can review it and have a refresher on it. The italics that are in the handout that I gave you are excerpts from the Drain Code of 56. I'm not going to read them at this time. The Drain Commissioner currently has a 2011 annual report on his website, What Happened to 12 and 13. His website still indicates that he develops design standards for stormwater runoff management in new developments. That's not true. He doesn't, or he shouldn't be. His annual report leads people to believe that he is still responsible for soil erosion when he has not been responsible for that for 2 years. This is misleading and confusing to the general public. I had previously asked the County Board of Commissioners to take all incorrect and misleading information off of his website. You did. Now here it is again. His website does not indicate what his statutory duties are. I think you all need to pay more attention to him. Expanding his duties will even require more of your time. The red in the handout that I gave you was copied from his website. I'll just read the highlights. The Drain Commissioner develops design standards for stormwater runoff management in new developments. I don't think he does by the authorization of this commission, and I know statute doesn't cause that to be the case. His mission statement on his website provides stormwater management. His vision statement provides stormwater management. I think you need to refocus the Drain Commissioner. Why do you continue to reward his incompetency? Why don't you hold him accountable and responsible to perform his statutory duties? You seem to ignore his continuing failures. Why? He obviously does not understand or care to perform his statutory duties, or he would be doing them. The taxpayers are being deceived as we are paying the Drain Commissioner to perform duties that he's not doing, and no one's holding him accountable. I ask that all of you commissioners immediately start to hold our Drain Commissioner responsible to do the job as required by statute. The responsibilities of the Drain Commissioner are critical to this county. We deserve competency, not confusion. And as a side note, the Building Code Office is doing the best job of managing and enforcing soil erosion and sedimentation ordinance that has been done in the last 20 years. It's done by the book, no politics, no confusion, with clear and concise communication. I also passed out to you commissioners tonight the top page of the stormwater control ordinance that the Drain Commissioner is touting as the ordinance that he's enforcing, and it's titled Stormwater Control Ordinance and Design Standards for all municipalities of Grand Traverse County. It goes on to accept the City of Traverse City, Blair, and Green Lake. I truly don't believe this is in effect anywhere. The enforcement agent of this 64-page ordinance is identified as the Grand Traverse County Drain Commissioner. Then Section 4 speaks of or leads to earth change permit. An earth change permit is commonly known as a soil erosion permit. The soil erosion permits are issued, governed, and managed by our building code office. I would certainly suggest that somebody get reins on him and provide some guidance for him. I think it's way past due. And I certainly would not be in support of expanding his responsibilities to cause more problems for the county and the county residents and the municipalities within the county. If the municipalities within the county want a stormwater ordinance, they should create one of their own, and they can hire who they like to enforce it, and it could even be the drain commissioner at that point. But this commission and this county board of commissioners should really have nothing to do with it. It should be all up to the municipalities on their own, not hiring out or brokering out the drain commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other public comment? Come on up.
The 10.
You get 3.
Thanks, Bonnie. Elisa Kropa, 5361 Heritage Way in beautiful Garfield Township. And I'm here to talk about my county commissioner, Herb Lemkool. And I wanted to say thank you today for what you said on the radio at about 3:30 when you definitively said, we're not closing the pool. And last week at our Parks Commission meeting, I spoke and said, we're not closing the pool. So I just wanted to say thank you once and for all of clearing that up and having that be a non-issue now. Secondly, to show how much we appreciate our pool, last week at our Parks Commission, we unanimously moved to open it to free swimming during spring break at certain times for the county. It's the county's pool, and the county should get to use it. So that was one of all unanimous votes last week at our Parks Commission. So I invite you to start coming to or watching the meetings and seeing the way that change is happening there. And last of all, thanks to the whole board for taking the time to meet with us in a joint meeting a few weeks ago. The fruits of that labor will be done in 2 meetings. We've set aside next Thursday and the following Thursday at 6. Obviously, the board is welcome to be there for a strategic planning session and see how we can move forward again in a nice, clear, concise manner. So thanks again, Herb, and anytime the board can speak out and let the public know that the pool isn't closing, that would be great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public like to speak? I'd like to welcome some of our students here. I appreciate you all being here. And when you get, there's some of you that have, this is your civics class recitement. We appreciate that. Are some of you from the Michigan State Extension? Anybody from that? No? Thought they were going to be here tonight. So, but anyway, we appreciate you all being here. Any other public comment? If not, we will go on down to the consent calendar.
You got to
Approval of
approve the
agenda.
agenda.
Oh, excuse me. Approve the agenda.
Do we have anything to add?
Anything to add? Is there a closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Now we'll go to the consent calendar.
You're going to take a vote?
Oh, excuse me. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
We all recognize that our chairman is going on vacation early tomorrow morning.
I think he's already checked out.
Gone.
He's already on vacation.
Ooh. Okay, now we'll go on to the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, correspondence from Father Fred Foundation dated January 21st. Number 2, correspondence regarding Road Commission dated January 23rd. Number 3, correspondence from Goodwill Inn dated January 28th. Number 4, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of November 21st. Number 5, Department of Veteran Services minutes of December 19th. Number 6, Department of Veterans Services minutes of January 16th. Number 7, Area Agency on Aging minutes of February 6th. Number 8, resolution supporting restoration of the Community Mental Health General Fund appropriation, Bay County. Number 9, resolution supporting retention of current income tax rate general funding surplus to improve Michigan roads, Bay County. Number 10, resolution supporting 2015 revenue sharing, Bay County. Number 11, resolution supporting Governor Snyder's recommending full funding for county revenue sharing in fiscal year 2015, Livingston County. Approvals. The Public Health and Safety Committee recommends approval of the following. Number 12, approval of Commission on Aging bylaws. Number 13, Commission on Aging donation report for 2013. Number 14, Commission on Aging Northern Healthcare Management Agreement. The Resource Management and Administration Committee recommends approval of the following. Number 15, Resource Recovery additional 2014 hauler licenses. Number 16, American Waste wood grinding contract extension. Number 17, appointments to the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board. The Ways and Means Committee recommends approval of the following. Number 18, budget adjustments.
Hearing the consent agenda, is there anybody from the audience who would like to take anything off that calendar? Any commissioner want to take anything off? A motion to approve the
Mr.
consent
Chairman, I
calendar.
would move to approve the consent calendar as provided.
And support by Rennie. Any other discussions? A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Inman?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop?
I wasn't here for some of that, so should I abstain?
No, go ahead.
I can't, okay, yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Lemko?
Yes. Okay, thank you. That motion approved. Next, we go to the special orders of business. Presentation by the Cherry Festival, Trevor Tack.
T-Catch.
Is that how you say it? T-Cash. You bet.
So I just want everybody to know that I saw this presentation at one of my meetings, and I thought it'd be important for the community to see it, as well as the commissioners. So Trevor, you introduce yourself and
Thank you, Chairman Lemkool. I appreciate that. Trevor Tkach, Executive Director of the National Cherry Festival, representing the festival today. Normally, Susan Wilcox-Olson provides this presentation. Of course, I'm going to screw it up right away. But this is, I don't know, does this come up on the television screen so that people can see the PowerPoint?
Oh, yes.
TV's on.
Oh, okay.
they were on.
Did I break it?
Is the laptop on? You see the image on the laptop?
Oh, here you go. Those are on over there.
Yeah, the TVs appear to be on.
Yeah, they got the green light on them.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey. All right. Okay, let's start again. Cherry Festival has an 88-year history in this community. Most people think it was created solely to sell cherries, but I'll have you know, actually, it was designed first and foremost to drive tourism in the region. And some of our forefathers were very thoughtful in designing a festival that would take a very unique fruit, something that makes our region very special, and turn it into a platform for expressing who we are and what makes our region so special. We have a mission statement that I think has resonated over those 88 years and really speaks to who we are. And I just passed out a handout that references that mission statement to celebrate and promote cherries, community involvement in the Grand Traverse region. But furthermore on that sheet, you'll see our vision and values and our motto. These are words that we live by. This is who we are. I encourage you to look at those closely to get a better feel for what the festival really is. What I'm going to share with you today are some analytics regarding the media attention, the exposure that the festival gets on a year-round basis. After 88 years of legacy and tradition, not only are we drawing a number of people for high-level entertainment and quality, but also we're getting exposure nationally and globally now throughout the year. And I just want to go through and reference some of the highlights from 2013 that I think most of you will be fairly impressed with. We started off the year with exposure in USA Today. This was an article right in January to get the ball rolling, talking about cherries. And all the articles always reference the Grand Traverse region. Next, for the third year in a row, we were referenced in the Wall Street Journal in an article. Memorial Day weekend, we were in the New York Times. And this isn't the first time we've been in most of these publications. As I said, third time for the Wall Street Journal, but year over year, because of the caliber of entertainment and the type of region that we are and the reputation that we have, we get this type of visibility annually. A magazine, Drive of a Lifetime. This is a year-round publication put out by National Geographic. The Traverse City, Grand Traverse region, Cherry Festival are referenced in this piece. And that's been 2 print versions of this have come out, and we've been in it both times. Because of the uniqueness of our event being a foodie event, and this being a foodie region now, we are getting more exposure in the cooking world and in blogs, cooking blogs and food blogs. This is an example of that. The Cooking Light Backyard Classics, we were highlighted in there this year. Country Woman, maybe not a publication you'd think the Cherry Festival would fall into and then pull the Grand Traverse region along with it, but because of the variety of entertainment that we provide, because we had Montgomery Gentry here this last year on our Bayside Music Stage, it drew the attention of a publication like this, which it appeals to a whole other demographic of readers that we wouldn't traditionally reach out to. Memorial Day weekend, Dallas Morning News. 16 years in a row, Best of the Midwest Travel. This is turned into a really great collaboration for us with the Pure Michigan campaign. We do quite a bit of work with Pure Michigan and stay fully engaged with that group. And this is one of those examples of how we've teamed up to provide not only exposure for Michigan, but for the Grand Traverse region. Numerous articles and publications throughout the year. Obviously, you recognize most of the names up here, not only in just the immediate market, but obviously reaching out into Minnesota and Chicago, Pittsburgh. So, pretty broad exposure throughout the year with print. Our dedication to health and wellness, not only as a region, as a festival, but the cherry industry also. As an antioxidant and recovery fruit, we've been able to lever that and take advantage of publications like Runner's World this past year, where we have articles and exposure to another diverse demographic that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you think of the National Cherry Festival. And follow-up stories and articles in a number of business publications, Bloomberg, Forbes, Cranes. They all have writers, freelance writers in the Detroit and Chicago markets that pick up on stories about the Grand Traverse region because of the work that we do here with the Cherry Festival. We get a great deal of television exposure year-round. Obviously, the majority of that coming in the summer, but 130 live and taped features. I mean, a tremendous amount of exposure nationally. We traditionally do a media blitz downstate. This past year, I had the opportunity to be interviewed on Fox Detroit. That was picked up by Philadelphia and Phoenix as well, so we ended up in 2 other big metro markets because we had the opportunity to go down and tell our story in Detroit. And then also the Grand Rapids market, ABC affiliate there for television. These are some of the spots that we're able to run because of our size and scope of business. We're fairly appealing as a partner, and we're able to promote in the region on a number of cable channels. We did more than 15,000 TV spots this past year to promote the festival in the Grand Traverse region. Kind of going back to that media blitz that I was talking about, in June we go down and we promote the festival not only on television, but to print publications and to radio stations. WJR, obviously one of the bigger stations in the state. 10 million exposures through 4 days of work, just going out and telling the story about the Cherry Festival. We were able to garner that kind of attention, which I think is pretty remarkable for an 8-day festival. Number of radio features coming from that and other work that we do throughout the year in the Detroit markets, Grand Rapids, Chicago. And these are some results that I think, we should all be mindful of, and I mentioned some of them already. 130 features on television, 15,000 television spots, 40,000 radio advertisements in the Midwest. And the staggering numbers there at the bottom really represent the print publications and the electronic print versions that we are a part of. This is annually $12 million of value for this region, for the cherry industry, that can truly be quantified, that I think we should all be mindful of and take into consideration when making big decisions about the future of how festivals will be managed in this community, how we approach tourism. This is an important piece of our economy. It's a part of our culture. It's who we are. It's our heritage, and we're proud to do this. We enjoy the opportunity to go out and tell the story of the Grand Traverse region and the cherry industry. And I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can continue to partner with. I recognize many of you at this table. We're all involved in this community in one way, shape, or form, and I appreciate the support that I've gotten from the county over the years in different capacities, and I'm hopeful that we can continue that partnership into the future. And I'd be happy to answer any questions now or later regarding the festival. I'll always have an open door policy, and for those who haven't heard, of course, the Blue Angels are coming back this year, so that should be a whole nother level of media exposure for us that we should be proud of. So, any questions for me?
Any questions? Sonny?
I guess the only comment that I would make, earlier in the day, we dealt with MSU Extension, and we seen presentations from them, and we talked about the necessity of the celebration of the harvest in the National Cherry Festival, how key that is to our community and our tie to our agricultural roots. And, I think we all appreciate that.
Thank you, Sonny. Appreciate that.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, stay tuned for more. Next, we have a presentation by PACE by John Syke and Andy Levin.
Figured you'd tell us how many days to the Cherry Festival.
Yeah, how
Trevor,
many days?
you have it yet all figured out, how many days to the Cherry Festival?
It's on our website.
I know there's a countdown somewhere.
You have a weather forecast for the Cherry Festival.
Will we have any cherries?
We'll have cherries. They won't be local cherries.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is John Syke. I'm the Planning Director for Grand Traverse County, and this evening we have a brief presentation on a program that is being made available to communities throughout Michigan called PACE, and it's through a piece of legislation that was enacted a few years ago that really provides an opportunity for businesses in our community to access the financing that they need to do some energy efficiency improvements into their businesses and to their buildings. This evening we have Andy Levin, who's going to do a presentation. We also have with us Brian Johnson and Mark Perry from E3, who's a local consulting business for helping businesses meet their energy efficiency needs. We also have Brian Beauchamp from the Michigan Land Use Institute, and we've been approached by them to consider this. We're also looking at conducting a public forum, our business forum, on March 14th. That's Friday, March 14th at 8 a.m. at EPI, which is the new business that's located in the former Lear building on South Airport. And you'll be hearing about more of that as that's being promoted, and that's an opportunity for, in addition to what you're hearing tonight, will be another opportunity for businesses that are interested in this PACE concept to really learn more about it and see how they might take advantage of it. And if we kind of keep things going in terms of momentum here, we probably will expect at least for an opportunity for consideration by the board possibly in April for enacting this program if we kind of see that support. But we wanted to kind of kick it off this evening. We have Andy here to present you an overview and answer your questions and really provide information as we kind of kick this off. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy.
Thank you very much, John. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I was glad to see Trevor's presentation, and it reminded me that, I don't know if I'll say the year. All right, I'll say the year. I believe 1977 in the summer as a high school junior at Berkeley High School down in Oakland County. I came up and worked in your neighboring county, Benzie County, at the Graceland Cherry Co-op, which John just told me is still going strong. Moving those cherries around in those pits and taking them off the trucks and putting them on the conveyors and so forth in forklifts. And it was a really great experience to make some money as a high school kid. And I mean, it is. Your region is so important for that culture is huge in our state. We all know it, whatever part of the state we're from. So anyway, so I'm here to talk about this Lean and Green Michigan. It's a program to help bring PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, to all Michigan counties and cities that want to have it. So what is PACE? It's about long-term financing. It's a way for you as the county to help your businesses in the county access long-term financing. So business property owners can undertake energy projects to improve their businesses, their business properties profitably. They make their businesses more efficient, but they actually gain positive cash flow to plow back into their operations. As a public policy, the bottom line is that you're providing an economic development incentive that doesn't require any taxpayer money, which is pretty kind of an unusual thing. All you're doing is giving businesses in the county access to a property tax tool so they can access long-term financing that helps them undertake clean energy projects. By way of background, we passed a PACE statute in Michigan in December of 2010. It's Public Act 270 of 2010, which allows you to do this. Our statute covers commercial, industrial, multifamily property, private, for-profit or nonprofit. Basically, any business property. It does not cover single-family homes, so residences like that are not included. It affords a great deal of flexibility in financing for businesses. It allows up to 100% financing of the project, 100% LTV, and a bank, if there's a mortgage on the property, the bank that holds the mortgage must consent to doing this, which is a great thing as far as I'm concerned, because it means everybody's got to be on board in this market transaction. And it allows municipalities to work together really without limit, which is how I came up with this idea of Lean and Green Michigan, one program that different counties and cities can opt into. By the way, 31 states and the District of Columbia have adopted this just since 2008. The last 4 states to do so were Arkansas, Utah, Rhode Island, and Texas. Rick Perry was the last governor to sign this into law. So it started in California. It goes from the Pacific to the Atlantic, from Mexico to Canada, the bluest states, the reddest states. It's totally not political. It's just pro-business, basically. So who could take advantage of it? Owners of basically any business, any for-profit business, and also private nonprofits. So your churches, your hospitals, nonprofit schools and colleges, private schools like that. No government buildings because it involves property tax, and you can't charge property taxes to yourself or to your cities or certainly to the state or the federal government, and no single-family homes. And what can you finance using this mechanism? Basically, any energy efficiency improvement to a building, any water efficiency improvement to a building, any renewable energy generating capacity, and you can finance 100% of the project, and anything you could finance, you can refinance. So if you pass this, somebody who did a project 6 months ago but used their own capital and they really need more access to capital, they could go back and refinance that. Here's a more detailed list in the materials that you've been given or that are here. Really, it's any energy efficiency thing: insulation, caulking, weather stripping, any windows, doors, energy control systems, HVAC systems, energy recovery, lighting, fixtures and systems, electrical systems to charge plug-in vehicles are covered because it's Michigan, I guess. It's fine with me, but water, anything that reduces water use. So low flow, low flush, rainwater recapture, cisterns, rain barrels, all that stuff. Low water landscaping, all can be financed. And then energy efficient or water efficient manufacturing processes in your industrial facilities can be financed with this. And then renewables. Most any renewable you could think of, biofuels, solar, both solar photovoltaic and solar thermal, wind energy, geothermal, methane gas capture from a landfill. The only exclusions are no incinerators and no anaerobic digesters. I don't know why they excluded anaerobic digesters, so I'm going to go back and get the legislature to put that back in one of these days. And nobody can tell me why they excluded it, but anyway, that's a little footnote. So, but it also, you see, this is just a list that's, sort of illustrative, because the statute says anything else approved as a utility cost-saving measure can be financed. So it's really comprehensive. Okay. So you got the idea that this is for business, it's for them to be able to finance something, but why is this useful? What is it about this mechanism? The problem that it's trying to solve is that most any clean energy project doesn't work out with traditional financing, because the payback on if you go get a factory or a hotel, doesn't matter, warehouse, you go do a comprehensive energy audit, it's probably going to be, say, an 8-year payback. If you paid cash on the barrel for your new HVAC system, windows, doors, whatever combination of things, it's typically 8 years, even 10-year payback. Well, most businesses don't pay out $500,000 or $1 million to improve their property if they're going to break even and start getting ahead in 8 years. I mean, this is capitalism. People have to make money. It just doesn't work out that way. And so, what about financing it? Well, commercial loans are 3 to 5 years, so it almost just makes the situation worse, because now you're going to take the payback out a little longer because you got to pay interest and closing costs. So now let's say that 8-year payback went to 10 years. Well, a commercial loan that you finish paying back in 5 years, and then you're going to break even in another 5 years, and it just doesn't work. So essentially what PACE is Grand Traverse County saying to businesses, you can take on a special assessment with us. Every city and county in America has the ability to levy special assessments. They're typically not for an individual property. They're for, say, paving a road or putting in a sewer line. Everybody on that right-of-way gets slapped with some amount of extra property tax for some period of time. What PACE is essentially saying, just your factory, your hotel, your warehouse, just because it's in your own business self-interest, you could take on a special assessment to finance a clean energy project. That's essentially all you're saying to your businesses if you pass this. But it has a pretty profound impact, because now who's ever lending them the money for their project is senior to any commercial debt they have, because they're the beneficiary of a property tax obligation. So it's senior to any commercial debt, and it runs with the land. You can now sell the factory, and the person who buys it picks up the obligation to finish making the payments. They're getting the energy savings that were put into the building. So because of these things, whereas commercial loans are 3 to 5 years, PACE loans can be 7 years up to 20 years. Our statute says up to the useful life of the equipment involved. Typically, it's 10 to 20 years. And now, boom, you're going to lend money out longer than the payback period. The property owner doesn't have to put any cash down, and it can be a cash flow positive deal for them. The lender has greatly reduced risk. And our statute also says that projects over $250,000 require the contractor to guarantee the energy savings. So again, it's really great for the property owner, because not only is it cash flow positive, but the contractor by state law is guaranteeing that the energy savings will be there. In terms of why do it with us, we've come up with this program for the whole state of Michigan. I was running the State Department of Energy, Labor, and Economic Growth when we passed this statute. And I don't know, I didn't really intend to do this when I left the state, but it's really a national policy thing that's sweeping the country. It's really a great pro-business thing. And I think we've come up with a way to do it in Michigan where it doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime, but we can help businesses throughout the state do this. So far, 6 counties and 2 cities have already joined. You see the list here as rural and as Huron County, which is the tip of the thumb, Ingham County, Macomb, Saginaw, Washtenaw, and Wayne County, the biggest county in the state, and the cities of Rochester Hills and Southfield. That represents 37% of the population of the state of Michigan so far is in. Bay County will finish joining on March 11th, they think, and various other counties are in different stages of this. And it's really cost effective because this basically doesn't cost the county anything. So what PACE is. Let me just take a minute to explain what I think are the 3 unique things about this idea of Lean and Green Michigan that I'm suggesting might be good for Grand Traverse County. The first is, instead of saying Grand Traverse should go either add more staff to your county payroll to create and run a program like this, or pay a contractor to do it, which other governments around the country, local governments have spent $200,000 to $1 million to do this, that instead I created this public-private partnership. And all counties and cities in Michigan can join this for free. When you join Lean and Green Michigan, I sign on to administer the district for you, and Miller Canfield does all the legal work for you, and we never send you a bill, because our idea is, if this is so great for property owners and contractors and lenders, let them pay for it through the transaction costs in the deal. So we fund the process through administrative fees on each privately funded deal. And it's just really a market approach, essentially. But the public-private partnership aspect is, it's fast for the county. You don't have to do RFPs. You don't have to do vendors. I'm not asking for a contract. You could join this program. Your next meeting, you could say, well, we don't like that. You could leave. There's no really requirement of any kind on you to stick with it. And you literally can get EVIP credit for it because it's cooperative with other counties and cities. The idea of this shared service statewide thing is really important to me as a policy matter. When I left the state, and Ann Arbor's the only one that created the district besides what I'm doing, and I was supportive of them. And they created this district, and they made rules like the Manhattan Yellow Pages, it's Ann Arbor, and and it was just Ann Arbor. And I went to see Dow and Ford and GM and some other big companies, and they all said, you think you're so smart, this is going to be nothing. If 30 or 40 cities and counties around Michigan each create their own program with their own set of rules and their own finance mechanisms, you think we're going to get involved in something like that? We'd have to have a lawyer full-time just to figure out all these different things. So we said, okay, just the light went on. Let's have one program, not with Manhattan Yellow Pages rules, but just whatever the statute requires, and really no more rules than that. And just let the market sort of do its work. So it's a statewide program. You're cooperating with other counties and cities to create one program. It's much better for property owners because, wherever they have property in this, they could just get these efficiencies. It's better for contractors, and it's better for lenders. And finally, we're taking the private financing approach. Our statute allows you to create a PACE district and then fund the projects of your private businesses by issuing bonds. I have found not one jurisdiction that has any interest in doing that. And my thought is, let's bring private capital to this. And every single major funder in the country who's involved in this PACE market has signed on to participate in Lean and Green Michigan. They really like the model. They like that it's statewide. They like that it's just sort of a market-oriented approach. So we're using private financing. So, in conclusion, the economic development implications of this are pretty broad. First of all, it's right there with Governor Snyder's idea of economic gardening. Remember, he said, when he campaigned 4 years ago almost now, he said, I'm not for picking winners, I'm for economic gardening, meaning making the soil better for all of our Michigan businesses. Now, this PACE thing, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you have business property and it's in your self-interest to make it more efficient, go ahead, it's good, it's just up to you. So it really fits that model. For property owners, they could do it just to save money. And if it's important for their line of business to have green, credibility or PR or whatever, they get a lot of that too. If it's not, doesn't matter. For tenants and employees, depending on what kind of building it is, if you make your building a lot more efficient, it's less drafty, it's more comfortable. If you're a tenant with a triple bottom line lease, it's less expensive because you're paying for your own energy. It's just a lot better for them. The biggest drivers of this are the contractors. I don't care if you're an HVAC guy, or you're in geothermal or solar or any of these efficiencies or renewables. You have a boatload of projects gathering dust on a shelf that were perfectly good projects, but that I just said as a business owner, gee, that sounds nice, how am I going to pay for it? And it wasn't practical. So for contractors, they get a whole new way to gain business, and they're probably the number one people who see this. For citizens, the main benefit, I think, hopefully, is that it's going to put some people to work doing these projects. We'll get a lot more activity. And for the county, you're really improving your commercial industrial building stock over time. You're actually improving the tax base over time because when buildings are sold, they'll be more valuable. You're creating a better business climate. And if to the extent it matters, you're sort of on the cutting edge of greening, policy. And then for those who feel strongly about, the climate change issue, and every penny of this reduces our carbon footprint because it's all about reducing the energy use or switching to renewables for companies. So that's about it. If you want to proceed with this, the statute it's very simple. It requires you to pass a resolution of intent saying we're thinking of doing this, and you publish your PACE program, which we have given Dave a whole, the template for this. And then you have to hold a public hearing and pass it. A lot of commissions hold a public hearing at the same meeting where they pass it. So there's sort of like at least 2 meetings, pass the resolution of intent and hold a public hearing and then pass it. But however you all want to do it, we're happy to work with you. So that's it, and I'd be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Clarification. Of course, I was in the banking business for 28 years.
Yes,
so
good.
I'm trying to follow your flow here.
Yes.
At the beginning, you talked about the business would set up a special assessment.
Yes.
And I'm confused with that comment versus the pooled privatization of investors that would fund the project.
Yeah. So
Are you saying that was an example of how you could do it, but now you just went to this private funding? Is that what you're telling me?
No. So every single project.
Yes.
A project only happens if property owner signs a special assessment agreement with Grand Traverse County, because that's the basis on which the private lender is going to lend the money.
Gotcha. All right.
So so a business wants to become more efficient. They get a contractor. They do an energy audit, which is required, and they say, okay, for $500,000, we're going to do these measures. And the lender is going to underwrite this just like a regular loan. They're going to, the creditworthiness of that business and that value of that property and everything. But it's really when the property owner signs a special assessment agreement with the county, the lender is going to be named as the beneficiary of that special assessment agreement. So if that property owner ever gets in trouble, the county's going to enforce the property taxes just like they enforce any other property tax obligation. And the lender's the beneficiary of that.
So there's no guarantee or full faith and credit by
Zero.
Grand Traverse County on any of the assessed
Zero.
properties?
And just so if you're curious, even if you issued bonds, you're not allowed to back them with full faith and credit. But there's...
So what happens when someone defaults on your terms and conditions on the pooled funding approach for 7 to 20 years or whatever? What happens?
If the property owner stops paying their
Yes.
special assessment.
Yeah, how does that work?
So it just goes in, it's the same as any other kind of special assessment, any kind of millage thing that you do for Northwest Michigan College, or their regular property taxes to township,
It's just added to the taxes and then?
It's added to the
where's
taxes,
that?
and when the person stops paying their taxes, the township says, county, this person's not paying their taxes. This is just part of the enforcement, like any other taxes not being paid. So the county enforces, and you just follow all your same rules. Ultimately, if the person never pays, the county's going to foreclose and sell the property, hopefully for at least back taxes. And that, the lender's going to get their share of the back taxes like anybody else, whatever else is owed. The new owner picks up not the arrearage, they pick up the remaining payments. And that's why it's so secure for lenders. Essentially what's happening, Commissioner Inman, is this is a new form of a government secured debt obligation.
Right.
And so the insurance companies of this country and the pension funds have such a huge need to have those kind of investments on their balance sheet that this is a very attractive thing for them. And the appetite for it among those kind of insurance companies and whatnot is way more. The PACE market nationally has doubled each year, 2010 to 11, 11 to 12, and 12 to 13. But cumulatively, it's only $60 million so far. It'll probably double in 2014, so we'll do, another $60 million just this year, as much as all has been done, before. But in the terms of the insurance, they need trillion, I don't know.
Right.
Many, many hundreds of billions to satisfy. So there's a big market for this.
So just one final question.
Yes, sir.
The methodology of allowing counties to set up a special assessment for the joining of the PACE program, did that have to be passed by the Michigan legislature?
Yes.
And that was completed?
December of 2010, they passed our PACE
All right,
statute.
okay, I'm all set.
Excuse me, Dan?
Yes, I'm asking maybe some obvious things.
Go for it.
This does not mean that we get less taxes from the person that involves in, a piece of property. I own a piece of property, guy.
Yes.
Okay, now, if I get in this program, do I pay less taxes to the county, or we,
No, so what happens is, the property owner does one of these things, right? They take on the special assessment. Next property tax bill, summer or winter, or whatever, they get their regular bill. Now there's a new additional line item. They still owe whatever their property tax was. It's completely unaffected. Their previous property tax obligation stays exactly the same. But now there's a new line item. Your special, PACE special assessment is now, $23,472 on top of it, whatever their other tax obligation was. So it's just an additional obligation.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple questions, is that all right? Okay. Secondly, what risk are we taking? There's going to be more work for Dean and his team, it seems like. Am I right, Dean? Is it going to take more work for you guys?
Well, not necessarily. That whole process, I would think that you're working with the local unit treasurers. These assessments will be billed initially by the local units. If they're not paid when the taxes are due, the county treasurer will have some involvement in that. But, that's part of what we do day in and day out. So I'm not overly concerned about that aspect of this.
Okay, and when you say issuing bonds, and talk to me like I'm a kindergartner, what does that mean?
We're not even issuing bonds.
It's going to be kindergartner to kindergartner, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm here telling you that one of the reasons I got into this is that I thought the approach that the one city in Michigan that did this the other way, and they are issuing bonds, I said that's just not going to work in Michigan.
So we're not issuing bonds?
So we're just not issuing any bonds.
No, probably-
It's just purely private financing.
What's our risk?
None.
There is really no risk. Here's a theoretical risk I can give you. It's more like a Warren, Michigan 1972 risk than a Grand Traverse County 2014 risk, but still, just theoretically. Let's say you have a property and they have a special, you put a special assessment on it, and then the company goes under and they're not paying their taxes, and you can't even sell the property for back taxes. Like, nobody wants that property.
That's the risk.
Okay, though not the rest of the PACE payment is, that bank or the investor just loses it all. There's no risk to the county at all. But that little bit of back taxes, you have to pay out whatever you got from the sale pro rata to whoever's owed, meaning equal, in proportional shares to what they're owed. So theoretically, if you have a property, the business owner goes under, you sell the property for less than back taxes, so each entity owed back taxes, including that township, including, say, the college, they'll each get a little bit less because this person's getting a little bit too. Chance of that is zero. It's possible. That's the only one that could be.
Well, are you saying we can lend people up to what, $200,000?
No limit, no limit. Millions.
So you lend somebody $2 million. Who is vetting that loan?
The bank.
The lender is, the person lending the money is a bank or a private equity or a credit union or something. They're taking the risk. They do the underwriting.
Okay.
I, on behalf of the county, and you have a authorized official. The county has to name an authorized official. So let's say it's the county administrator, the county treasurer. That's up to, your staff or you, whatever. You would, be deciding that whoever, whatever that is. That person and I would be making sure that they're following the statute.
Well, you can loan more money than people can pay back, and
We've seen that in this country.
Yeah. So this, how are we going to avoid that?
Well, because the lender is the one taking the risk. So it's nothing like what we ran into with the housing crisis, where they had these, they were securitizing literally hundreds of thousands of mortgages, putting them in these toxic soups, and nobody knew what they were. If our program is fabulously successful in Grand Traverse County, not to be too unambitious, but I mean, if we did 10 projects a year, that would be like awesome. And so it's really nothing like that. It's like the lender each time is really looking at that individual property and deciding if the lender wants to take the risk. So it's really not a risk to the county in that way.
If I could,
Please.
the way I understand this is, I'm a business, and I've got a really nice old business, or old building downtown, but it's drafty, and these guys do an energy audit on me, and they say, well, it's going to cost $500,000. You can do this, 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 and this, and you're going to save $50,000 a year in your energy bill. Okay, so it's going to take 10 years to get my money back, right, to pay this loan off, this $500,000 loan. So instead of doing that, they do a special assessment on me and say, okay, I'm going to pay this off over 20 years. Okay, so now I don't have to pay $50,000 and get my money back in 10 years. I can actually get that $50,000 savings and start paying $25,000 a year and get $50,000 in savings today. So I actually am 25 grand ahead, and I got all the improvements, and now I have this special assessment on my property for 20 years.
Okay.
That's how it's going to work.
That's literally right. We can't approve a project unless it's cash flow positive for the property owner. The state statute says that the savings to investment ratio must be greater than 1. That's the actual language. So it's got to be a cash flow positive deal, like Mr. Benda was describing.
Thank you, Sonny.
Well, I think I've looked at this from a couple different directions, but, my concern is, when we're encouraging businesses to acquire more debt. I'm all about economic development and creating jobs in our community, but I've seen way too many businesses that have acquired too much debt already. A few years ago went through a whole energy audit and upgraded all lightings and electric motors and such in my building. Of course, mine was as a result of a fire, which made made it easier to do the upgrades all at one time, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, I'm not sure my energy costs today are any cheaper than they would have been before, you know, and we spent an awful lot of money on those so-called energy upgrades. You know, this isn't like gap funding that we do with some of the other things that we do as far as EDC loans and those kind of things. This is actually creating additional debt for this business. Then in another chair that I sit in, and Dean sits next to me and John sits there, we look at land bank properties that come back to the county because people were no longer able to afford their taxes. We have one right now that has a special assessment charge on it that is so astronomical, I'm not sure we will ever sell the piece of property. And, you know, it's a huge debt that Blair Township has, and unless this property somehow or another gets developed, they won't get out from underneath their bond, and we're sitting on the piece of property. Well, not officially yet, because we're holding it because we're waiting for a court decision as to whether or not the county is going to end up with this piece of property. But we have, over the years, acquired a number of parcels of property where there were special assessment districts on them for water and sewer or different types of things, or even fire district mileages, whereas the special assessment that was on that parcel of property, by the time the people had not paid their property taxes for these 3 years, made it impossible for us to become whole by selling the piece of property. So I'm concerned
Those are
about
governmental assets.
doing anything that encourages people to grow more debt on a parcel of property. You know, special assessments are real easy to talk about, and they're really good when they work. The problem is when they don't work.
It's just a loan
then all
repayment mechanism.
Because you can't get out of it. And you know, it's easy to sit here and say the only way these people get this loan in the first place is if they have agreed to put it as a special assessment on the property. Because then the lender technically is kind of guaranteed that they're going to get the money. Because if this is a PACE loan, becomes a special assessment on the property, I have to believe that that person has the ability to go back after that piece of property. And when the property, or that lender has the opportunity to go back after the property. If the property comes to the county because someone defaulted on their taxes, I'm not going to be turning that piece of property back over to ABC Bank because they loaned that person $10,000 to do energy improvements. You know, we will hold that property, and that's a conflict, and at least in my mind, it's a conflict of which way we're going to do it. You know, I understand that when it works, it'll work well. But if it doesn't work, it's not going to work at all. And I can see where, you know, because of the fact that our land bank is as strong as it is and we're as active as we are, I can see where we could have the potential of owning parcels of property that have these special assessments on those properties, and then, okay, it's transferred ownership. It went from that previous owner to Grand Traverse County Land Bank Authority. Now that lender expects Grand Traverse County Land Bank Authority to make that payment.
I don't know about that.
Well, that's a government, you're talking about governmental assets. You're talking about a special assessment that was to put in infrastructure improvements to pay for a property that might have value once the development was completed. This is a little different than that. This is basically a method of paying back a loan. It's a different method that the statute, you know, the legislature enacted in statute, and it's being used across the country to make energy improvements. And instead of the payback being the problem, you can actually stretch the payment back.
The amortization.
You can amortize it over a longer period of time and have the savings actually be accruing right off the bat. And pay it off at the pace that you...
Yeah, it actually makes the property owner more able to pay their mortgage and whatnot because it's a cash flow positive deal. And the other thing is that the PACE projects are not being approved on distressed properties. And this is not something you should think about, oh, this is a great thing because this will help our distressed properties. The lenders involved here are not, I'm just being frank, they're not interested in your distressed properties. They're interested in strong companies with valuable property that could use, like the downtown building that's old and cool but drafty and very inefficient, or a useful piece of industrial property that could be put to good use profitably. So it's not really a tool that's being used to sort of save distressed properties. For example, apartment complex that has 42% occupancy, and they say, oh, let us have this PACE loan, and then we'll be a real green apartment complex, and that'll get then we'll attract a lot of tenants. No, they won't get it. They have to be a strong property in the first place. And nationally, the actual data are that I don't know of a single default that's taken place in commercial industrial PACE in the United States, and there have been about 150 projects so far in the country. It's still, very young. But the county with the most experience in the country is Sonoma County in California. Mm-hmm. And they have, just that county alone has done, I think, 58 commercial industrial PACE projects, and they have not had any even late payments.
Okay, go ahead. When you lend a person an unlimited amount, you said it was unlimited, I don't know, $5 million. How do we know they're going to spend it on energy efficient stuff?
Well, they couldn't.
We got to trust the word of their contractor who makes money on it.
No, the PACE money, the PACE funds can only be used for the actual. They have to show it. They have to give the receipts. They have to do the whole thing. So, for example, if there's a renovation of a building, and they're doing new carpets and paintings and painting the wall and all that, none of that PACE funding can't be used for any of that. Like the biggest project that's been done to date was a Hilton in Century City, Los Angeles. It was a $7 million project. That was in December of 2013. That was over 2 times bigger than the previously largest project. And that was part of a huge, remodeling of that whole hotel. They did all kinds of things in there. The project might have been a $50 million project, but the PACE funding could only be used for the energy and water conservation. It can't be used for anything else. And it has to be documented, like any business transaction.
But the person that's advising us is the contractor that wants the job.
No.
It's
Me and a county official both have to sign off on it. They have to show us, they have to give us an energy audit. They have to, and then after the state statute requires that they demonstrate that all the equipment has been installed and is working, and they have to have a plan for monitoring and verifying the energy savings over the life of the project. It's pretty rigorous, actually. It's not, they couldn't just get money to do something else. I haven't seen that being an issue. It's interesting idea, but I haven't seen that come up anywhere that's a problem with this so far anyway.
Any other questions from Commissioners? Charlie?
So this energy analysis and these folks work in conjunction with the lender. Is that what you're saying?
Say that one more time.
This energy analysis that you do, that then works, or that outfit works in conjunction with the lender to show that there could be some sort of a positive cash flow out of this before they make the loan? Is that what you're saying?
Right. The lenders who get involved in this are knowledgeable about energy efficiency and renewable energy, and they specialize in that. Most of the lenders involved in this are actually unique PACE lenders. They are entities that have been created to do this by the private equity groups. For example, there's a group called Hannon Armstrong in Annapolis, Maryland, that for 35 years has funded energy efficiency projects for a lot of schools, hospitals, governments. They created a REIT, a real estate investment trust, with $90 million to do PACE financing because this is sort of so these are experts in energy who are doing the lending in general. Although we are encouraging local banks to get involved, but they have a different kind of knowledge, They know their own community.
Dean?
Just a quick question. With your experience working with some of these financial institutions, I would assume that they're not lending or extending credit just based on the payback for the energy savings. They're also looking at maybe the debt leverage that these companies have. I mean, they're doing more than just...
Oh, yes.
And I guess that's why I'm asking that question. I mean, if you're I think to some extent, I have a little more comfort with this perhaps than most of you would. Not that I'm familiar with this program, but I think that's an important aspect here that we need to maybe talk about a little.
Yeah, so for
further.
example, the first project, I hope that we close our first private sector PACE project in Michigan either in March or April. It's on an office building, a 100,000 square foot office building in the city of Southfield, which was the first jurisdiction to join. It's about $1 million project, about $520,000 is being funded by PACE. They're doing LED lights, outside some energy control systems, solar on the roof, some micro wind on the roof, and solar carports and electric vehicle charging stations in the parking lot. The lender there, I hope in a way we can, maybe I can share that lender's criteria or find a way to share those, like a sanitized term
Because
sheet
I
or
know
something that's appropriate to share. Because it gets, like that lender will only lend up to, the project has to be less than 30% of the value of the property, and they have many requirements that are for the safety of their investment. They don't want the total indebtedness of the building, including any mortgage, any other indebtedness, and adding this PACE
Well, the bottom line is
over 70% of the value.
They don't want a bad loan.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They're not lending money, despite the fact that they've got a secured tax assessment here that's going to support this. They still don't want a bad loan in their portfolio. So they're
And we
going to be
can't
looking-
afford to have we're not going to have any failures in this. This is a new program. Every individual project that we approve in the first however long has got to be spotless, or else we won't approve it. Because, we're standing up a new thing.
I'm getting some vibes over here that maybe the public would like to weigh in on this. Is anybody from the
I'd be
public?
glad to yield the mic to the...
Does anybody from the public like to be able to talk about these as to whether or not private businesses want to use this? Come out to the microphone. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Megan Kroll, and I just have a question. I understand that you have about 1 million safety things in the way to make sure that none of these loans go bad. I'm just more curious than anything else on the off chance that it goes bad. What happens to the payments during the time that the property is sitting in the county's under the county's control? What happens? Does the payment get suspended? Does it keep adding on? I'm just curious.
That is a great question. And the answer is that it happens in the same way that the county in question handles its special assessments, other special assessments. So in most cases, most counties, the township that's collecting or the city says to the county, this person's not paying. The county then provides to the township during that time the funds that are the equivalent of what was going to be paid. But in the end, if they never collect it, the township has to give that money back to the county. So that's the way it's, that's the most common way it's handled. But it's literally whatever the county's normal mechanism is. So I don't know if Dean.
Well, just to add to that, at some point in time, if the taxes, including the special assessment, are not paid, and there's a period of time, as Commissioner Wheelock mentioned, the county would institute a foreclosure process, and depending on the property, we would work to basically get that property back on the tax rolls as soon as we could, because we want those taxes paid, and we generally don't want to hold properties that aren't, paying. But that is a risk. There could be a period of time where those taxes are kind of held and not paid until we do get it back on the tax roll. And there's always the risk that if we are able to sell it through the foreclosure process, that we don't recover the amount of taxes that are due on that parcel. So,
one of the things, I've gotten a Facebook page or Facebook message from a business person here in town talking about the need to have something like this in our community. And I've heard about this program before, and I think Seeds brought it up here to begin with. It was talking about it. And my concern is that I haven't heard from the business community as to whether or not they want it.
Perfect
And
segue.
I'm starting to hear from the business community that they do want this. And so this is not a gentleman that's coming up here and I'm going to give you this great idea and then I'm going to go out and try and sell it to the business community. The business community is already there saying, we need this, we want to be able to do this, because it helps us to be able to pay for these improvements, that the bank will then be able to loan it and we can be able to go forward and continue to provide a good, valuable service to our community. So, the more business people that come to us and talk about this program between now and the time that we decide to do this, the better it's going to be for the comfort level for me to be able to vote for something like this. Larry?
I guess I'd like to bring up the differential between how a commercial bank would handle a foreclosure and the process that I just heard explained by you, is that on a default, if the lender declares the default, and I don't see us as the lender to Grand Traverse County,
No.
so we would not handle the default as I thought Dean was describing. So the lender, in a normal situation, the first thing on the default, after they, give them their notice, and then they don't perform, and then there's an actual default declaration, then goes and makes sure that the taxes are all, they advance money to protect their collateral asset. So they pay the taxes, they pay any special assessments, and then they prepare for taking the sheriff's deed and actually taking ownership of the property if there is there's no remedy to the default. So I guess the question I have for you is, does the lender take care, not Grand Traverse County, in advancing delinquent tax funds? Seems to me the lender advances a protective amount to cover property insurance and updating taxes and assessments or anything else that might appear to protect their collateral position.
Right, well, so in general, many of these properties will still have a mortgage on them. So
Sure.
there's still a bank in that situation that's still doing that.
Okay.
But this PACE lender really is in a different position because their interest will not be extinguished at foreclosure or or bankruptcy or whatever might happen.
Wouldn't they have to bid above the bank's amount to capture their money?
No, so whenever if there's a, sheriff's sale or whatever happens to the property, whatever they get back, in any event, going forward, the new owner picks up the remainder. So if it's a, 20-year thing and in year 12, the property changes hands in that way, the new owner owes the rest of the 8 more years. So really, that's quite different, right? The mortgagee has to go in and get their interest right away, or they're taking over the property, or whatever the situation is. Whereas the PACE lender is just the beneficiary of the special
So
assessment,
the special
and that
assessment
goes
just
forward.
stays out there until the new owner comes on board, and then they've got to recapture that to own the
And then the
property.
new owner picks up the remainder of it.
Even if the property changes ownership, the special assessment remains with the property.
Right, it runs with the land, as we lawyers, say. Yeah, so it's quite different, but the upside is people get it, appropriately talk about like worst-case scenarios. But the positive thing is that you're able to improve the commercial industrial building stock of the county, right? Improve the quality of it, and then people can buy and sell greened and more efficient properties, and and you try to sell me your factory, and you say, oh, by the way, you have to pick up the special assessment, and I say, well, what? You know, why would I want to do that, right? And you say, well, you know, can you do arithmetic? I mean, this was my energy bill before, this is my energy bill now. This special assessment is, 85%, the special assessment and the new energy bill is 85 or 90% of what the old energy bill was, so you're saving money. So it's really it improves the fluidity of the property market, and it allows the county to improve its building stock through a purely market system instead of, government.
John, could you, up on the next steps up on the slide here, it says that the commission's going to pass a resolution of intent, hold a public hearing. You're planning on having a business forum on March
14th.
March
It's
14th.
Friday, 8 a.m. It's going to be held at EPI, which is now housed in the former Lear Building on South Airport Road there.
Get input from local businesses.
Well, we'll have, Andy will be back in town. We have, will be an opportunity for local businesses to attend and hear the same presentation and ask questions. And Andy's will be here after that presentation to meet directly with businesses that are interested. We have representatives from E3 here, which is a local firm that does these types of audits. And I think it'll be an opportunity to have kind of more of a discussion with those businesses and to kind of gauge what that interest is.
And then we can work forward from there.
Yeah.
Right.
And as a
I think
sidebar,
the key piece is it's more later.
yeah.
We're certainly not in any position to make a decision.
No.
tonight.
Oh, no.
No.
But this is to, there's a process that we're starting tonight, and by informing you and getting you to ask questions, and then we'll talk about it some more later. But I spoke with Doug Luciani yesterday about it, and he had heard of the program for quite a while, and he said, if the commissioners are willing to do this, I mean, he's got 10 businesses that are ready to do it next week. So
One of the things that bothers me about it is, it's like the computers I just bought 5 years ago, and now the government's requiring to upgrade my computers. I'm a doctor. And I'm not even through paying for the computers yet. So you look at this, you're going to amortize this type of equipment, LED lights and furnaces and whatever, solar panels, and they'll be obsolete before they're paid for. That kind of bothers me. I don't know if I want to be involved in that kind of loan.
Well, you don't have to be. I mean, it's
But the
purely,
government will be.
you're letting businesses, this is a sort of a market thing, so you're just allowing businesses to do it. But
He's
the
talking
more
about
direct, pardon?
He's talking personally.
Right, well, so the more direct answer is that you're not allowed to finance for longer than the useful life of the equipment involved. So you do a weighted, if there's multiple energy conservation measures involved, you do a weighted average of them based on the cost to come up with the useful life. But so, for example, an HVAC system might last 20 years. A geothermal well lasts a really long time. LED lights don't last more than, nobody's going to sort of guarantee them more than 8 years, whatever it is, 10 years, whatever it's getting to be now. So you cannot finance it longer than the useful life. Now, I'll admit to you, in my house, I have an ancient boiler that is not at all efficient. And if I had started financing it whenever, and now it's not, as there's some newer, more efficient boiler, I can even save more energy and have an even more efficient boiler if I want. But anyway, nobody's making me, replace my boiler. I mean, so this stuff, there's no, this isn't about, unless you all are going to go past building codes that require people to go back in their house, their building and, undo stuff they did and redo it or something. I don't, really see there being a problem for it. I see the DR in front of your name, and I know that what's happening in healthcare and my own doctors, all of a sudden these guys have taken notes for 30 years and they're coming in with these fancy things and they have to digitize everything. I mean, this is kind of a different deal. This is the envelope of your building. Windows are going to be windows. They're windows. Could someone come up with a more efficient window than these guys can help you put in today? I hope so, maybe. But in any event, For as long as that window's in there, it's 20 or 30% more efficient than the one you had before. Nothing's changing that. If you want to go and put another 20% more efficient window some in future time, that's your business decision, you know. So it's really, it's pretty tight. I mean, the state legislature, I think, did a pretty tight job of requiring, that the energy savings be there, that on larger projects, that the savings be guaranteed by the contractors. I mean, they literally have to write a check if you say, the energy savings weren't there. On Michigan statute says that on projects of $250,000 or greater, the contractor must guarantee the energy savings, and they have to write a check for the difference on an annual basis if the savings aren't what were promised. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
That was the point.
Okay, I think I'm going to cut off this conversation. If there's a lot more questions, John's here. John knows how to get hold of Andy. I would, make sure your questions are, do that. And this probably will be coming back to the agenda in a future date. I'm sure John will be bringing it back for us. I think this is just another example of our staff being creative, finding out new programs and services that are available to our business community to create jobs. Great job, staff, for being able to do that. And that's why, we can be so proud of what we have in our community.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I say, Mr. Chairman, these are great questions, and I think my experience with the other counties, the more questions, the more discussion, the better in terms of ending up with a program that people are really going to use. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. John, anything else for you?
No, nothing at this time. Just remind people, March 14th, Friday, 8 a.m. at EPI on South Airport Road.
Yeah, send us a reminder email.
Okay.
Will do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Next on the agenda is Administrative Finance February Claims.
I did provide everyone with a copy of our February claims. We do not have a total on Friday's payroll, which is why the item down on the bottom is left blank. But I'm asking for your approval on $5.3 million in claims on the report that you have in front of you.
Motion to approve the claims report as presented.
Support.
Motion approved. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop?
Yeah.
Rennie?
Yeah.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes. Next is FY 2012 Emergency Management Performance Grant.
I'll cover this. I told Wendy and Greg that they could have the night off, but this is additional funding under the 2012 Emergency Management Performance Grant. That year and these services have been provided by the county staff. So this is supplemental funds, and I'm asking for the board to approve that, and it does require the chairman's signature. We have to have this back or returned by March 7th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept the emergency management grant.
Support. Support by Thomas. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is the audit engagement letter. Dean had it on our Ways and Means and didn't have the whole letter, so.
Yeah, we didn't, for some reason, we didn't include the letter, but I'll be brief with this. I have reviewed this. It's the standard engagement letter to go along with the contract. This is done on an annual basis. On page 75 is the start in your packet of the actual letter, and the first two sentences are fairly important because they basically are explaining to you what they're going to do for us. They're going to audit our financial statements, including the component units. I know that's a lot of jargon that auditors would use and probably things that only someone like myself would understand, but this is in the proper form and format. If you go to the next page, page 76, that paragraph under audit objectives is fairly important. It tells what the objective of an audit is. They're not looking at every transaction, but they're basically going to render an opinion when they've completed their work as to whether or not our financial statements are fairly presented. And that's important for those of you that sit in this chamber tonight to realize that we have a responsibility for that. And actually, it's a statutory requirement that a local unit having a population of over 4,000 actually have this done on an annual basis. So it's one of those, I don't know if that's a mandated requirement, but that is something that that you're responsible for. And then probably most importantly, I'm walking you through this fairly quickly. On page 77, we are responsible, this is under management responsibilities, for those financial statements, meaning your staff, under Dave's direction, is responsible for making sure that those financial statements are fairly presented. We're also responsible for making sure they have a schedule of all of our federal awards that are received. That's called the single audit. And we are also responsible for designing, implementing, and maintaining effective controls to make sure that all of the appropriate transactions are accounted for in our accounting records and in those financial statements. And that's the main purpose of this letter. That responsibility rests with the management of Grand Traverse County, which is overseen by this board. So we can't shy away from that responsibility, and the auditors are clearly making that distinction in the engagement letter. The fees for the services are listed on page 81. We have those budgeted under the Board of Commissioners budget. So with that, unless there are any questions, which I would happily answer, or try to answer anyway, I would ask for your approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the audit and engagement letter as presented.
Support by
I'll support it.
Okay. Sonny?
Dean, when did we bid audit last? This is a 3-year contract, correct?
Well, we had actually initially approved a 3-year, but then with the pricing that Raymond, we extended it to 5. So, and I
They gave us
believe
a
this
5-year pricing.
So
We
this
said,
is
yeah.
year 4?
Yes, I believe this is year 4.
And they've always done a good job for us, and, we're all very aware that our finance department does an excellent job of our record keeping. You can see the plaques next to the elevator at the lower level. We are awarded certificates of excellence regularly for our accounting, so I have no problem with this.
I think it's really important to note that this probably is one of the most important decisions you make as a Board of Commissioners, because this is your audit. You're asking for this company to come in and make sure that the books are what is being told you all year round. So, for the general public out there, for the commissioners, this is our audit that we are asking for, and that's why it's important that we as the Board of Commissioners approve and sign this. It's really, I've seen organizations, I've seen government entities where the financial officer sent the letter, and that's not the way it's supposed to be done. This is the Board of Commissioners, any board that has an audit has to come from that board. So I think it's just really important that everybody understands that. So we have a motion, and we have a roll call, please.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Thomas? Limkul?
Yes. Next is new business, a letter of request for proclamation, April 2014, Social Host Awareness Month. Need motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Support by Lathrop. Any
And then you'll
discussion?
say, what is it?
I'm not exactly sure why we get into all of these. I really am not.
Any
When
other
kids
discussion?
under 21 drink on your property.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
This was a program we approved, I believe, last year, and talked to a lot of our townships about this and so forth, the importance of this. Actually, we should laugh about it. A lot of these kids get out there and start celebrating and get hurt, and I think it should be passed around for these next couple of months as these parties and things start happening as kids get out of school. I think it's an important idea.
Parents, you're responsible.
That's what it comes down to.
Parents, you're responsible. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next, we have our second public comment. Anybody from the public wish to make comments? I told our students they had to go up and give a 1-minute speech, but, you know, that's all right. So when we get done, some of us are more than happy to sign your paper if you want us to. Commissioner reports. Sonny?
Had opportunity last night to meet with the Community Corrections Board. Two things. One, it was pointed out that to Judge Power that we have the highest prison commitment rate in the state of Michigan. Those of us in the room clapped. You know,
Ooh, that hurt.
you know, we did have discussion about the fact that because of the fact of our alternative sentencings and our alternative courts, basically what comes to the circuit court is felonies to be sentenced. If they are convicted, they go to prison. You know, our prison commitment rate is about 44% or something like that, which well, twice what the state would like it to be. But if we back out all of the level 1 offenders that we wouldn't normally see, then
We're at
we're
25%.
27%.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Secondly, Sharice had a new in-home breathalyzer that we are now using instead of the old suitcase type thing. It's a little handheld one. People can actually take it to their job. It randomly notifies them. You know, some people that are on these have to, you know, submit a breathalyzer 3-4 times a day at random, and the thing beeps and you have 15 minutes to do it. And if you fail, it will automatically, you know, entice you to blow again every 15 minutes until you get to 0. If that doesn't happen soon, you'll probably receive notification from the sheriff or from your probation officer.
Come on home.
So, yeah. But anyway, it's a much more compact unit. We don't have to pay for it by the day, which we were currently paying for the other ones. We were renting them and paying for them by the day, whether they were issued out or not. So that was a good thing. The other thing, we had some discussion about the new GPS tether system that we have, and possibly implementing that in our work release program. You know, find out whether these people are actually going to work. We'll be able to know real fast. You know, so.
Amazing what you can do with GPS units.
Yeah, you know, and we have the equipment, we have the technology, we have the software, we have the person that's monitoring it. You know, to add another dozen people to it is pretty minimal.
Yeah. They were talking yesterday at 911 that you're going to have a contact lens that people will be put on and be able to read whether or not your diabetes. So, and it'll read that and tell you whether or not it's you're high, low, or in between. And so there's just, you know, hang on, we haven't seen everything that's coming out yet. You know, like the young man who just invented in Traverse City the 3D system to make cases for your cell phones. He invented it here, not invented it, but he made his own. So it's kind of interesting to see it's happening.
3D printer.
Yeah. Any other commissioner reports?
Herb, I had a question on another issue. I don't know if you want to go through the commission reports first or not. Maybe some other, if anyone else has something to say. If not, I would like to have Bob Cooney tell me about what a closed session is, or what that means. We had a newspaper article last week that came out, and I'm okay with the article, but I'm very upset about somebody coming out of a closed session and making statements like that. I think you broke a trust. I don't see how we ever gain it back. And I think it causes dysfunction on this board, and we see that all the time. I've seen it for a year, actually.
What's your opinion?
I want the lawyer to tell me
So
his
do you want-
opinion
you wanna-
on a closed session.
Do you want to cover that now or at a later time, Bob?
Well, just in general, I've said this at our Open Meetings Act trainings in the past, and it's in the Guide to County Government, that it may be a violation of the Open Meetings Act to disclose information that is discussed at a closed session of a public meeting. And, I'm not exactly familiar with all of the facts of the situation that Commissioner Rennie is referencing. Frankly, I don't know what statements were made by any of the other commissioners about what was said in that closed session. I've heard from other people what was said, so I don't want to just take that hearsay as true. But in general, what I would say is that what is said at a closed meeting is not to be revealed except with a court order.
Well, I would say I'm very upset about it. I think it broke the trust on this board. I don't see how we can go into a closed session going forward if we want comment and a diverse point of view. People are going to feel inhibited by that. I want to know what that's about. I don't think it is putting the public before the personal. And that's where I'm at with it, and I will not say another word on it. And I certainly will not go to the newspaper about it.
I did not go to the newspaper on it,
Your quote's in the newspaper.
but I did not go to the
I
newspaper.
don't, your quote was in the newspaper.
Excuse me, gentlemen, I think that this is a discussion.
I think it should be discussed,
I
Earl.
think it's up to you if you want to do something about that. I don't know what the repercussions
Here's what I would like
are.
to do about it. I would like to see a little more assertion from the leadership of this board, and we wouldn't be talking on the people's time about crap like this. Now, I'm very disappointed in the leadership of this board.
So,
And no one's asking you to tell people what to do. You tell them what you expect. There are no bounds, there are no ends with this. And this is what we get.
well, I think everybody understands where the concern is now.
Well, I think
So
they should.
let's go forward.
Because I think it's pretty low class to come out of a closed session and start talking.
So,
I do commend the sheriff there, from his standpoint, and how he looked at it and said, no comment, closed session.
so,
I just want to let the board know I did not disclose, I did not call the newspaper, I did not disclose any of the nature, discussion, or matters within the closed session, and all I did was verify through a third party that notified the paper that Mr. Rennie yelled at me. That's all I said. So,
But
Well,
so
that's a whole different slant in that newspaper article.
that's all that was said in the
Mr. Edmund.
newspaper, and that's what was
Can you
printed.
say that again now? I'd like to hear what you said then.
You can play it back on your own time.
Okay. Oh, really?
okay,
Yes.
let's,
I'm not done with it.
gentlemen,
I don't really care.
please.
I don't care either.
I don't care about your attitude
I don't care
Larry.
about a
and your
low-class
professional
commissioner,
attitude during
to be quite
county
honest
commission
with you.
meetings.
I'm calling this
You have no right to
meeting,
come out of a closed session
I'm
and do
calling this
that.
meeting adjourned.
I'm sure glad I'm sitting in between you.
Welcome to a public meeting.
I think there's a terminology that happens that